Alright, now you bought your Code Black and you want to know how to set it up to wirelessly transfer pictures to your phone or your email addresses. This is how you do it. The first thing you're going to need is an activated SIM card from AT&T. It must be a text-only feature package. It doesn't need data or anything like that. It must be text feature package. Be sure that you let them know that when they set it up, because if it's not set up a very specific way, it's not going to work in the camera. So the things that you need to tell them is that I need a GoPhone prepaid SIM card. When they give you the SIM card, you need it set up to where it is going to be a text feature package. And if it's going to be set up for auto renew, it needs to renew the text feature package on the card. Okay? So you've got your card and it's activated. You want to insert it into the camera like so, and it's going to click into place. You've got your batteries in it. Now you need a clean SD card. It can be anywhere from 1 gig to 8 gig. This is a 4 gig. We want to insert that into the camera like so. Now we want to turn the camera on to the setup screen, which is the middle switch, and you're going to see the camera screen. And then when you're trying to set up the GSM setup on the Code Black, you must wait for it to start checking in red. You see it there. It's saying checking, searching network. Now it's going to give us a number. And the 310410 at the top lets us know it's logged into the network. Now if your camera doesn't automatically log into the network and gives you a login fail at this point, don't be alarmed. A lot of times you have to finish the UOV setup on the computer before it'll be successfully logged into the network. Also, if it doesn't automatically start checking for the towers when you turn the camera into setup mode, this is what you need to do. You want to hit the menu button. You want to scroll over to the GSM tab. Check. Your send mode will be off. You want to turn that to instant. So you want to hit OK, and then it's going to bring up a max number. Hit OK. Whatever that max number is, don't worry about it. Just hit OK, and it's going to take you back to that screen. Now the camera is going to start looking for the tower. The reason why the max number doesn't matter at this point in time, because when we finish the setup on the computer, we're going to set the max number there. So now we go over to the System tab. Scroll all the way down to the bottom and Format. It asks you, do you want to format? You want to say yes and hit Enter. Now our card is formatted. Now we want to go all the way back up and over to the GSM. Scroll all the way down to the download tool. Hit OK. Now it's downloaded. We want to turn the camera off. Take our SD card out of the bottom of it and insert that in the computer and do the GSM setup. Now your SD card is in the computer. What you need to do is you need to scroll over to the lower left and hit the Window tab. Scroll up to the Computer tab, and this is going to let you find your SD card. Now you click on your SD card icon in your devices with removable storage. It brings up this screen. You want to click on the GSM setup part, double click left, it's going to bring you UOV setup. Now you want to double click on the left again. It's going to bring up this prompt. Now you want to, yes, allow this to access your computer. So you click yes. This brings us to the UOV setup. You have send modes of off, daily report, and instant. Off means the camera will not wirelessly transfer pictures to your phone. Daily report will send your camera 1 picture per day. It'll send you the last picture that was taken with a readout of all the pictures that were taken during that time frame. Instant means it sends it instantly, and then you have a max number. 0 means unlimited, or you could set it for a fixed amount of pictures per day. I prefer 0 because that way I'll always get pictures when the camera is taken. Send mode needs to be via MMS. Operator parameters. Country needs to obviously be United States because we're in the United States. And your carriers can be T-Mobile or AT&T. Because we have an AT&T SIM card, we're going to go AT&T. Send to. You have phone, email, or both. Now I'm only going to send it to a phone number. When adding phone numbers or email addresses, it's important that you do not put a space. There are no spaces or dashes. So for a phone number, I want to always put a 1, then the area code, then the phone number, and then you want to have semicolon. If you're going to enter multiple numbers, you go right back with a 1, phone number, just like you did before, semicolon. There are no dashes and no spaces. You go 1, area code, phone number, semicolon, 1, area code, phone number, semicolon. Email addresses are the same way. You enter the email address that you wish to send to with a semicolon and then the other email address. Do not put dashes or spaces in it. Now the rename feature down here allows you to name your camera. If it's on, I've named my camera Covert, so when I get the picture, it'll say the Covert on the bottom. Max size, always set that for 80 KB. The camera has the possibility to send higher resolution images, but the network limits it to 80 kilobytes. So always have this on 80. Your path. Now once you've got your ULV set up in, you have to make sure that you put it on your SD card. Right now, all this information is going to be saved on my Windows hard drive. So what you need to do to make sure that the path is the SD card, you go over here and click this little 3 buttons. It's going to bring up your navigation. Now you see this is the path that I have already, which is C Windows. I want to save it to my SD card, which is F. So I click on F, one left click, and hit OK. Now you see that my path has been changed back to F. Now if I hit OK again, it tells me that profile bin has been saved to the F drive, which means it's on my SD card. So it's ready to be taken out, put in the camera, and try to send a test picture. Now what you need to do is you've got your all your information from your ULV setup is on your SD card. You just ejected it from the computer. You want to put this into the camera, click it into place, and turn the camera onto the setup mode. Checking, searching network. Alright, now we're ready to send a test picture. You've got 310, 410, so that means you're logged into the network. You've got great signal. So what you want to do is push this picture button and the camera is going to take a picture. Like so. How I know it took a picture is I have a 1 there. Now you want to hit the play button to bring up the picture you just had. Hit the menu. Now when you push send, the camera is going to start going through the process of sending the photo. It's going to go through steps 1 through 10. It may pause on step 4 and it may pause on step 10. If when you do this, an error message comes up that says parameter error, you need to redo the ULV setup on your computer and double check and make sure that you saved it to the correct path. Also, if a send fail comes up during this process, you also need to go over the ULV setup again and double check and make sure that you didn't misspell or mistype your phone number or your email addresses. Simple troubleshooting paths on this may be going in and changing your phone number to just 1 to see if it works and 1 email address to see if it works instead of adding all 4 at a time. That way you may have an invalid phone number or email address. When it goes through all the steps and you've got step 10 and it says send successfully, you know it's sent to your phone or your email address. The following are common error messages that you may see once you set up your code black and you try to send a picture. Login fail could mean one of a few things. It could mean 1, there's not enough signal for your camera to log into the network, or it could mean that there's a problem with your SIM card and it's locked. If you see login fail, you need to redo the ULV setup just to double check it, and then if you're still receiving login fail, you need to contact your GSM provider to make sure that your SIM card is a text feature package and it is unlocked. Also, you may need to purchase a booster antenna to boost your signal if your SIM card is set up correctly and you're still getting a login fail. Network busy. Network busy happens when there's an error with the information entered into the ULV setup. Either there's a phone number entered incorrectly or there's an email address entered incorrectly. Also, this could mean that there's not enough money on your SIM card and you need to reactivate or re-up your plan. So contact your GSM provider and make sure that you do have money on your account. Another troubleshooting is go back into the ULV setup and start subtracting email addresses or phone numbers if you have multiple ones in there to determine which one is actually entered in incorrectly. Send fail is much like the network busy. Send fail usually occurs when there's a problem with a phone number or an email address that is entered into the ULV setup. If you have email addresses entered into your ULV setup, you need to make sure that your email address has the spam blocker turned off. Okay, basic setups for a Code Black camera. You have your camera part, you have your PIR, the GSM tab you should never really get into on the camera. You do all of that on the computer. And then you have your SYS tab. Just quick setup your code black camera. You have the camera mode, which is photo or video. We're going to have it on photo, so you want to hit OK. Photo size, you have the options of 8 megapixel, 5 megapixel, or 3 megapixel. 3 megapixel, the picture quality isn't as good, but allows you more space on the SD card. 5 megapixel is middle of the road. 8 megapixel is the highest quality picture, but it takes up more space on your SD card. I like all of my photos to be the highest quality, so I'm going to put them on 8 megapixel and I'm going to hit OK to save it. Your photo burst. Now the camera is only going to send you one photo. You have options for 1 photo, 2 photos, or 3 photos. Even on the 3 photo burst, the GSM feature will only send you the first photo taken. So you'll wirelessly be transmitted the very first picture. I like to always have that. So I'm going to push OK and I'm going to save it. So that all the photos will be saved to the SD card, and the first time the camera is tripped, it's going to send me the first picture off each one. The PIR, this is where you set the sensitivity levels. You have 4 options for sensitivity. You have off, which turns the camera off, low, normal, and high. I usually always leave mine on normal, so I hit OK to save. The trigger interval. What the trigger interval is that's how long the camera needs to reset before it starts to take another picture. So if it takes a picture, it won't take another picture for another minute. You have options as low as 5 seconds you can set it for, or you can set it for 60 minutes. 0 seconds, it won't take any pictures. So I'm going to have mine set on a minute, which is the minimum suggested for the wirelessly feature to work properly. Hit OK to save. The time-lapse mode. With the time-lapse turned on to any amount of time, you are telling the camera to take a picture at that fixed interval regardless if something's in front of it or not. This is the GameWise software. It acts like a plot watcher. So if I have the time trigger interval set for a minute and the time-lapse set for 10 seconds, the camera is going to take a picture every 10 seconds regardless if something is in front of it or not. I don't want my camera to operate that way, so I'm going to turn it to off and hit OK. As you can see the options, you could have your camera take 1 picture every 8 hours or every 5 seconds. It's from 5 seconds to 8 hours, but I want it off, so I'm going to hit OK to save it. The start-stop feature. What the start-stop feature does is that lets you tell your camera that you only want it to operate between certain parameters of time. So if you wanted it on, you would hit on and hit OK, and then you would go in there and program the start times and the stop times, which would basically say, I want the camera to start working at this time and stop working at that time every day. I want it off, so I'm going to hit OK to get out of there and turn it to off. So now this camera is set up to where it has normal sensitivity. The trigger interval is 1 minute, which means the camera is activated by motion, and then it's a minute before it can be re-triggered again by motion. My time lapse is off and my start stop is off. Now I'm going to go over to system settings. Set clock, OK. You use the up and down arrows to obviously increase and decrease it. So today is September 28th, so I'm going to use the down button. It's on the 9th. Push the right button. We're going to do the 28th. (2012), and it's 8 o'clock in the morning, so it's 9/28, 8:30 a.m. Hit OK to save it. Your timestamp. Your timestamp is pretty self-explanatory. It gives you the time, date, and moon phases on all the pictures. The flash range. You have 6 meters or 20 feet, 12 meters, 40 feet. I like the 40 feet, so we're going to put on. Password. Obviously, if you want to password protect your phone or your camera, you would turn that on. We want it off. Overwrite. The overwrite feature, when it's turned on, allows you to, when your SD card fills up, it won't turn the camera off. The overwrite feature lets the camera overwrite the oldest photo on the SD card with a newer one. So that way, there's no way you have to go out there to swap SD cards unless you just want to. Format obviously deletes all the information on your SD card. Default set returns the camera to default settings. If you're having problems with your code black, that's a good troubleshooting guide. If you're having problems with your settings, try setting the camera back to default and redoing the GSM setup.